I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. 2025 marks the 45th anniversary of the Terry Fox Run, and on September 14th, Canadians from across the country will come together to do the run once again. Carol Baker of St. Stephen has been a volunteer with the Terry Fox Run for the last 45 years as well, and she's here to tell us all about this year's events. Thank you so much, Carol, for coming in and sitting down today.
It's an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
I think for Canadians, the Terry Fox Run has been a part of our lives. It's just a part of how we kick off the school year every year. It has been my entire childhood. What brought you to become a volunteer 45 years ago when it first began?
I believe it was following Terry's run. And I was so inspired by this young man who is a super athlete, and in 2017 was diagnosed with cancer in his leg, and that was on the 3rd of March. His mother kept a diary, so she knew when.
Oh, this was 1977, did you say?
1977, he was diagnosed, and on March 6th, I believe it was, and 6 days later he lost his leg. So that would be so shocking to anybody, but him being a super athlete, it must have been devastating for him when he was diagnosed. But I was so inspired by him not feeling sorry for himself. He said, I have to get up and do something to beat this disease. And that's what inspired me most, was, because people even older than that, they tend to feel sorry for themselves, and everybody would at the beginning. I have melanoma. When I was diagnosed 25 years or more ago with melanoma, the first thing I thought was, why me? But then my next thought was, why not me? I've had a chance to live. The young people haven't, and so many haven't, and they deserve a right to have a life. So that's what it kind of inspired me to keep going.
When you look back and remember, I was born in 1979, and Terry Fox has just been a part of the fabric of Canadian identity my whole life. And I remember being in my first run in elementary school, and I think it's the symbol that I think most Canadians agree. If there's an ultimate Canadian, it's Terry Fox. He represents so much to so many people, and we're also all a part of this journey with him. We are all in some ways, a little bit of Terry Fox is inside of us. But when you look back and think about watching that on TV when you first began this run, what was the feeling in Canada at the time? I know now it's really a part of history, but in the moment, did you know how epic and how transformative this run he embarked on was going to be? Could you feel that just watching the news? Not really. I was just so inspired with him that I said, if they're going to do this run all the time, because we didn't know that we would be doing this, I said, if I ever had a chance to run with them, I would. Not very far, but a mile or so I would run with them. That would be an honor. What was it like when the run first took shape? For those of us who just, grew up having this as a part of what we did in school, and what was it like the first year the run happened? How did it sort of take off? There wasn't
much news. They did have Terry on and used the progress that he was making through Newfoundland. And when I was in Newfoundland many years ago, I went to Mile Zero down in St. John's downtown, and they just had a little sign up there, not much. Evidently they have quite a monument there now. And then just watching it, I was so inspired, of course, with the Newfoundland people, because they're so welcoming, and they're really true Canadians, because they have the right spirit that we all should have. And then when they got to PEI, he was known a little bit more, but not really. And then when he got to New Brunswick, then people were talking about this amazing young man. And people told me, I never had the chance to catch him when he was running through New Brunswick, but I have been up to Fredericton many times where the office is, and all these people I talked to when I first went up there, they said, I remember Terry running through here. They still have this wonderful memory of him. Yes. I met his mother, Betty. So I was invited to an affair that they were having in St. John, a luncheon, and I was invited to go to that. She is just an amazing mother. You know, and all her children are just like her. Yeah.
I was telling you before we started filming, I was actually born in Victoria. My dad had a job out there when we were kids. My brother and I went to elementary school out there, and there was Mile Zero there too. There was a monument of Terry Fox where the race was supposed to end, where the Marathon of Hope was meant to have its final moment. So that was always a special spot for me too. And it's interesting, you know, the way we're seeing Canadians unite across the country now, that we still do over Terry Fox in this really beautiful, positive way. His family actually donated the Marathon of Hope van to the British Columbia Museum, which I got to see, and it's incredibly emotional too. You don't realize how much something like that has become this national symbol for so many.
Yes.
I
was kind of upset too when they went through after New Brunswick. They were going through Quebec, and the first news report that came out that I heard was that they didn't want this conglomeration of stuff going on their main highway, so they put them on a back road. I was so annoyed with them because I said, oh, somebody should shoot them. Not really, but, and I thought, how can people do that? That's just not right. That's not being Canadian, not caring about people. But when he got to Ontario, oh man, they really highlighted everything. And he did so much more speaking there. But his words of wisdom, and he had so much wisdom. It was unbelievable for a young man. He really was an inspiration and still is.
What do you remember some of his words of wisdom being that seemed to catch the nation and make us all pay attention? What was it about this young man that was so wise?
I think that like he I remember one time some of his quotes, and he just said, you know, it's not the amount of money that you raise, it's the thought behind it. And that's why he still would be saying, if he was alive today, if you give $1, which was all he asked for every Canadian, and that was at the time when they had about a population of 40 million, and he said, look what they could do with that. He said, it's not the amount you give, but it's the meaning of it and what it means to you to give that dollar.
Well, Carol, I know you are not only a volunteer, you are a participant. You're hoping to raise yourself $3,000 this year to mark the 45th anniversary. You are organizing the run that will take place in St. Stephen on September 14th. So it starts at 1 o'clock at Neighborhood Works registration at 12:30.
Yeah,
okay.
12:30, because we can only get into the building at 12, so we have to set everything up. So at 12:30, we don't have that many, but a lot of people donate.
Okay.
And through when I'm a Giant Tiger, you know, for the 2 weekends before. So it gives them an opportunity to get a t-shirt. The new t-shirts this year with a colored back on it. First time they've had color, that Adidas has done the color. And it gives them a chance just to donate if they would like to. There's a gentleman in St. John, I call him Dan the Clayman, and he collects the clay in St. Stephen, St. Andrews, St. John, St. Martin's, and Alma. He cleans it in the winter, and then he makes these wonderful little necklaces. And he just, 3 or 4 years ago, he said to me, here, take some of these, because he always went to the market in St. Andrews, and that's where I met him. He said, take these necklaces, sell them for $10. Well, it costs them more than $10 just to make them. And he said, anything you make will be my donation. I said, well, what are we talking about in necklaces? He said, 10 to 15 over 4 days. The first day I sold the 24 he gave me. And that year I sold 50. So he wanted to give me all that money. And I said, no, you and I never expected this. So you take the money back. And then if you would like to donate, you can donate what you'd like. So he ended up giving me the $500. The next year I said, I won't be selling that many. So he said, okay, well, I'll give you 50 or 60 anyway. I had people coming from Fredericton to come down because they had heard about these. And they said they weren't looking for junk anymore. They didn't want stuff sold like that was made in China or foreign countries. They wanted something local, and most people don't want a lot of clutter anymore. They want something that has meaning. Where are you going to get something more New Brunswick than from clay in the Bay of Fundy, and then having these beautiful necklaces for $10 and no tax? That's a bonus.
So then that means there's just all these ways people can get involved, to donate, and even if you didn't feel like running, I know that you can still walk the Terry Fox Run. How do people that want to participate get involved?
All they have to do, I had a lady last year who was 101 years old who made her first Terry Fox entrance, and all she had to do, I say to people now, you can't go 10 kilometers. If you want to be a participant, do what you are able to do. You can walk, run, bike, take a pogo stick if you want, whatever you want to do, but do what you can do.
And do you show up? Can you show up day of and register, or should you
that's
do that
when we
in
do
advance?
register.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about what route you'll take through St. Stephen this year.
I just let them kind of do what they do. I used to have a map, for 2 kilometers, 5, 10, going through the town. But then we have such a beautiful walking trail down by the river across from the Civic Center. And I said, go down there. And that's such a beautiful walk. And that's what some people have been doing the last several years before I even mentioned it. And then I said, well, if it's a rain day, still rain or shine, they can go in and use the walking track in the Civic Center. The first year the Civic Center opened, I asked if they could use it for rain. No, they couldn't use it. But it's free. So just go down and walk.
It's a great walking track. It's a wonderful walking track.
Sure, so I've got all of it covered.
We hear so much about the wonderful work that the Terry Fox Foundation is able to do. Tell us a little bit about where the money raised goes and how it's used.
Okay, they have a Terry Fox Research Foundation that is connected with the Terry Fox Foundation, and they have the top 5% of Canadian cancer researchers working with them. Every year I try to put a letter out to tell what the latest research that I've heard about is going on, and every penny raised goes to the research centers because they want to beat this disease. And that's what Terry was trying to instill in people. No matter what you give, they need the money, these researchers. And as it is now, like with this latest information, where this researcher, this precision oncologist, because there's so many different types of cancer, which people don't realize. And this precision oncologist, using artificial intelligence this year, was able to figure out why some treatments work for a while and then they don't. And that was very puzzling for them. Well, this fellow found out this spring that the tumors can supercharge their own DNA, which I couldn't believe. I had to read it 2 and 3 times to make sure I was getting the right message. But this is how they stop these treatments. They're that smart. But it was through artificial intelligence that this researcher was able to find this out. So now that gives them another chance to be innovative enough to be able to detect and diagnose and then find treatments that they can detect them earlier, so that and individual cancers and how they can stop that. But this is where your money goes, to find out these things. And they said, the last 5 to 10 years they have learned more than they have in the last 50 on treatments. But now with artificial intelligence, in the next 5 to 10 years, you are going to see massive treatments. But they have to be individualized, as this fellow says in his newsletter. And he said, because we're all individual. And I had always thought that you can't have one kind of treatment for everybody, because we're all made up differently. And the treatments that you have, if you've kept yourself healthy, if you are active, if you don't act your age, just go out and stay healthy, have a good lifestyle. Don't smoke, don't drink. Like, you can do a social glass of wine once in a while, but don't make a habit of doing these bad things and sitting so much. Get out and move. And doing all this keeps you healthy, gives you a strong, a very strong DNA, and you know, you can fight these things. And a lot of times the cancers can't take hold if you catch them early enough. But we have to teach people too, don't be afraid of it. Be afraid if you don't do anything, because the earlier they catch it, the more survival rates you have.
You, Carol, have survived your own battle with melanoma and have been touched by cancer in your family as well.
Yeah.
How has going through that and getting through that changed your perspective on cancer, or enlightened you into what you should be aware of and how you should lead a healthy lifestyle?
I think a lot of it depends on how you grow up too, because if you've been healthy from all your life, eaten properly, and stayed active, I think you have a head start on beating these diseases. Now, my niece's little 10-year-old died 22 years ago today. She died of brain cancer. They detected it when she was 5, and she fought this for 5 years. Well, in those days, they really didn't know much about brain cancer, but they did all they could, and she fought it for the 5 years, and finally they said, enough. You know, let her have the last month or so of having a decent life, being a child. And I think that was one of the things that Terry realized when he got cancer and he was going through treatment. He did his treatments in the hospital so his family wouldn't see how he was suffering. But he saw children, because he didn't have all these special wards. He was in with a children's ward, and he saw all these little children with intravenous sticking out of their heads and their arms, and he'd hear them crying, and that changed him completely. It just made him so compassionate and caring, and realizing, you know, I've had a chance to live, and he was only in his late teens then. And I think that touches anybody. When you've had it, you're so dumbfounded when they first say, oh yeah, it's melanoma. The first thing I said to myself was, why me, Lord? But then in the next breath I said, why not me? I've had a chance to live. There's so many young people that haven't had a chance to live, and it's not right.
He changed the conversation. I think one of the things, maybe if you're a new generation today, where we're able to talk about cancer so openly on television and even over coffee and share our stories. Our lives have all been touched by cancer, but he really started a national conversation that I don't think people who are born in this day and age are aware wasn't something that was normalized back then.
No, it wasn't. Because it wasn't as bad as the past generations have been, where it's me, me, me. It was, you thought about your neighbor, because you had neighbors that you communicated with, and you became like family. Everybody helped one another. There were the oddballs, you know, which you find everywhere, but the majority of people really cared. And then we seemed to go through a whole generation or two where it was, I think because of the way society had changed so much, it was me first and the other guy what's left over, where we didn't grow up with that.
Tell us a little bit about another aspect of this year's 45th anniversary, which is a run across Confederation Bridge.
That is going to be on our usual run. Our usual run across the country is the third Sunday in September, but we're doing it on the 2nd. And the third Sunday of September, the Terry Fox Foundation is going to, for the second time in the history of Terry Fox, being able to do a run from Prince Edward Island to New Brunswick. That's about 13 kilometers, and the vehicular traffic will be stopped, which is unusual, for Sunday morning on the 21st. And they will run for 3 or 4 hours, so that there's people that can only walk, you know, or coming in wheelchairs or whatever will do it. You have to pre-register for that through terryfox.org. But the first newsletter I got that it was announcing this in the spring. A month later, they had over 1,000 people across Canada registered. Who knows how many they will have this time, which is also a benefit for tourism because we can use it down here. And so that's helping. Look at the number of people that's going to be helping, and the businesses and the economy.
I do know, I think Kurt Gubishal and Brad Henderson from St. Andrews, I know, are maybe Paul Logan, 3 people I know that are doing this run across the bridge. So what an exciting year, and to see New Brunswickers participating is just so special. When you think back on your long history with not just the Terry Fox run, but just knowing his story, what do you hope Canadians continue to take forward with Terry Fox? I'm, just so impressed in my whole lifetime to see that this has always just been a part of the fabric of who we are, and that really hasn't changed fall to fall, and it continues to be important even to these generations born later. What do you hope, though, Canadians keep with them always about the message that Terry sparked for all of us?
Oh dear. I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, people will see more treatments coming out, faster diagnosis, gentler, let's say, treatments that are making people so sick now will maybe give them a better chance at beating this disease. A lot of it depends on your thinking too. If you are a negative person, I think you're going to be a long time getting over this disease. If you're positive, I think that's about 50%. Because I know a lot of people who are living now, either with cancer, but it's at a stage. I have a sister a year older than me who lives in Virginia, and she was diagnosed 3 years ago with cancer, and it was just below what they call the line in the upper part of her abdomen. And they said if it went above the line, there was nothing they could do for her. But she just persevered. And of course, I have a bunch of people I call prayer warriors, because I truly believe in the power of prayer. The more people that are asking, then, that message is heard. And it seems to be producing miracles that I see many times. And even my prayer warriors, who are about 60 on my email list, they are so faithful because they too, I don't know whether people are religious or not, that's their individual choice, but I truly believe that there's a higher power that the people today call Jesus Christ, and he hears these prayers. And because we are so loved, everybody is so loved, that he listens and answers them. But we have to do our part.
I think there is that, there's that higher power when you can see a country like ours that is so spread out, and you sometimes think, what really does unite us when some of us don't even visit the other parts of this vast country that we're all supposed to be unified in being a part of. And then you see moments like the Terry Fox run where it crystallizes. I think we saw it with Elbows Up in one way this year, but with the Terry Fox run, it is a moment that reminds you there are things that make us Canadian across the board. And so for me, that is the higher power you speak of is this I don't even know how to explain how people come together and do this across our country. And it is just part of the Canadian psyche. Does it surprise you that it continues?
It does, because I think a lot of it is doing the runs in schools now. They never used to do that. But having the children involved, and I know about 4 or 5 years ago, Fred Fox, Terry's oldest brother, he was his mission, I think, in life was to get this message to all the younger people in schools. And he would go, I think he's retiring this year from that, but he used to go to every province and never paid for airfare. I think it was Air Canada that was free reign. And he would go to 2 or 3 communities in every province every year and visit all the schools and talk to the children. Well, I remember 5 or 6 years ago he came to St. Stephen. So I said, remember now, and he had been up north somewhere at some of the schools, so he came down to St. Stephen. I was surprised. And I said, there are 4 schools here. Now there's 2 elementary schools as well as a middle school and a high school. So you've got to go to the 4. And the children that year, well, he had been down, I think it must have been just before the run. It was around the first part of September. I remember this one little boy coming in for 3 years saying, "Oh, Fred, Terry Fox's brother, was at our school. He is awesome." Oh, wow. He talked about Terry. He had his artificial leg, and he had this, and he had that. And they remember these things when they're young. And I think that has been an inspiration with Fred doing that. And I think maybe he's a bit to almost every school in the country now over all those years. But I think that really keeps the message alive. And then people like me who are out, and 9,000 other volunteers across the country who are out doing things, you know, and having their runs and special days and things. I think that helps every little bit.
We have just final minute of the show left. Carol, any final words for people at home who about getting involved in this year's Marathon of Hope and Terry Fox Run?
Yes, if anybody would like to come this year, next year, the year after, and help me, because I have people that offer to volunteer, but when it comes close to the time of putting out posters, I do all the writing. I do the church bulletins, and somebody that could bring 3 or 4 to the churches they go to get the message out. I go to Giant Tiger the 4th and 5th of September, and the 11th and 12th, because the run is on the 14th, and I'm there all day. So if you would like to come and visit me, please feel free. And if you just want to make a donation, I have a bucket there. If you would like to see what is there, buy a shirt. If you'd like to sponsor me, I have the sponsorship sheets. And it's usually if you donate $20 or more, you get a receipt. Well, many years ago, I told them, a lot of people give $10. That's all they can afford. And that's tough this year as well. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I want receipts for them all. So on my sponsorship sheet, I write on where the amount is, receipt, check, receipt, check. So everybody gets a receipt. They come later in the year, and because all the receipts are written through the foundation's office in BC, which is very clever of Mrs. Fox to have set it up that way, because that way nobody can kind of like say, oh, nobody will miss this or that. Everything goes to the researchers.
And I should say, Carol, I go on the Terry Fox. I love Terry Fox. That is my painting of Terry Fox behind you. I had the long sleeve finish it. The Terry Fox Foundation website. So, and you've got, if you could, I know that you were a dancer for
right
the Toronto
on the bottom of that letter.
Football team. You've got the book here too. But they sell amazing memorabilia on the Terry Fox Foundation's website, such as the Adidas shoes. I know they have the 45th anniversary.
These are the 40.
Carol's wearing the 40th. But they're, I mean, how special. And the t-shirts as well. But I'll come get a short sleeve version from you when you're in front of Giant Tiger. But they have amazing stuff too that all goes towards the foundation. And what a way to show your Canadian pride, especially in a year we're all really feeling it.
And I even have Americans. I write a letter to all my sponsors and future sponsors, and I also go down to the borders, because I live in St. Stephen, you can walk to both, and I have a little agent over, a little girl, Amanda, who is over in Calais, and I give her a letter, a sponsorship sheet, and a poster when the run is, and I say talk it up and tell everybody they can at least put $1 in. So, and I do the same with the Canadian side. So every time I go across the border and come back, especially coming back, they say alcohol or tobacco, and I always say, no, I don't smoke and don't drink, just the occasional glass of wine. But I said, do you smoke or drink? Do you know anybody who does? And if they say yes, I say, put all your change and every dollar you spend on food, on the drink and cigarettes, put in the bucket, the equivalent in the bucket, and I will pick up your bucket in September, count your money, and get you a receipt.
It's the right attitude,
They
Carol.
just kind of look at me. But they all know me now. When I come back, they just say, I won't bother asking her about alcohol, tobacco, because we know what she's going to say to us.
She's got a run to do.
Oh yes, you got to remember that a lot of these people, they're so busy today that they forget what's important.
Well, I appreciate you not forgetting. I appreciate you coming in today, but I want to say thank you on behalf of not just Charlotte County, but all Canadians for 45 years and counting of dedication to this important initiative that is really, truly a part of what being Canadian is all about. So thank you so much, Carol.
Well, thank you.
My guest today has been Carol Baker. The annual Terry Fox Run will take place on September 14th across Canada, and in St. Stephen, meet at Neighborhood Works, leaving at 1 p.m., but registration at 12:30. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.